If statements are one of the most powerful things in programming that apply across nearly all languages. So this is where programming is going to start getting a bit more fun. So I'm going to start by making a variable called age, and I'm going to take it as an input. And I'm going to say enter your age. Then I'm going to start asking some questions. So what an if statement allows you to do is ask a question. So you write if, and then I need an argument or a question here. So I'm going to say if age is over 75, and then I put a colon. And then when I press enter, you'll notice this a lot in Python. When I press enter there, it's not gone down here. It's nested itself here. This distance is referred to as a tab. So on your keyboard, the button above the caps lock on the left-hand side is the tab button. That is a tab. Now, in a lot of languages, you would see something like, I don't know, squiggly bracket like this, and we'd start typing code, and whatever's in the brackets would run if this is true. Now, Python doesn't work like that. Python looks neat and tidy because it uses white space. So what that means is, whatever I type here, so anything that's indented like this is only going to run if this is deemed to be true. Now, it doesn't matter if this is one line of code or this is hundreds of lines of code. As long as they're all indented after this if statement, then they will only run if this is deemed to be true. So this is where you can start creating a program that goes in different directions depending on the user's actions. So because I've inputted a number, it will debate whether to do this or not based on this question. So let's run this, and I've made a mistake on purpose. I'm just going to change this, and then we'll try and work out what my mistake was. So if they're over 75, I'm going to say you are very old. So when I run it, I'm going to enter my age. I'm going to enter something above 75, so I'll go for 100. And you can see it's errored. Now, if we read our errors, because we need to practice this, it says a type error. So this is a data type problem. So it says the greater than symbol is not supported between instances of strings and integers. So what it's saying is, on one side of this is a string, and one side is an integer. So we know that's an integer. So this is a string. So it's because, if you remember, whenever you take an input by default, it's a string. So I need to turn this into an integer. I could either do it here, like that, or I could do it here. So I could also have done that. Okay, it's whichever way you prefer. You don't need to do it twice. So I'm going to leave it up there. So I've converted the inputted string into an integer. And if I run this again, so enter your age 100, it's now saying you are very old. So what I could do is ask another question. So I could say if age is, I don't know, greater than 18, print you are an adult. Now, what this will do is it'll ask both questions separately. So it's going to ask this question, and then when that's done, it's going to ask this one. So when I run it, if I enter a number that is both over 18 and over 75, so we'll go 199, it's going to do both. So it's going to say you are very old and you are an adult. Often, this is not what you meant to achieve. So it very much depends. It's absolutely fine to do this if you do want to ask all of the questions. But it might be the case where I want somebody to enter their age, and I want to I want to output a personalized message depending on what their age is, but just one message. So to do that, I would need to write elif, so ELIF. And then whatever block of code is indented after elif would run if that's deemed true. The key thing with elifs and ifs, you can have one if statement per block, but then elifs belong to an if. So I can have as many elifs as I want, but they have to be in line with an if statement above it. The first one has to be an if, and then ones afterwards can be elifs if I want to join them together. So if I do this, I don't know what I did then. If I do that, they're not joined. So they're then in no way related. If I do an elif, what that means is it's only going to ask this question if that one is wrong. So if this is false, try this one. That's effectively what it means. So it'll ask this one first. If that's true, it prints that. If it's false, it'll then ask this question. So if I run it now and I say I'm 199, it says you are very old, but notice it's not said I'm an adult. Even though that would have also been true, that's not run because it's in an elif. However, if I run something where the first one's false, so I say 40, it's saying you are an adult. Because 40, this was deemed to be false, so then it will try this question. So then if I go again, I could say elif age is less than 5. Print, I don't know, you are a child. And then if I run that, again, if I enter minus 100, it says I am a child, because minus 100 is technically less than 5. Okay, now we can make these arguments far more complicated, and we'll do that in the next video. I'll show you some different ones, but this is showing you the essentials. Now, there is one more thing. So I could have 100 elifs if I wanted, and they'd all be linked together. So it'd only ask each subsequent question if the last one was false. However, there is a catch-all you can do. So I could do an else. So what an else means is it doesn't even need an argument. What an else means is it will do whatever's in the else block if the others are deemed to be false. So you don't even need the elif. So I could have it like that. So I could have an if and then an else, and that's fine. But an else is a catch-all for everything else. So my gap I've got here is I can't be over 75 is true, over 18 is true, less than 5 is true. However, between 5 and 18, because remember that's less than 5, so 5's not included in that argument, I could do you are, what's off after a child, you're a kid, or something like that. Or I could just print you smell. So I'll print you smell. So when I run this into your age, if I try and do one of these catch-alls, so I need to be between 5 and 18, so I'll show you that 5 will work. It says you smell because 5 is deemed to be false on all of these. If I change that to equal to, and I did the same 5, that's suddenly going to be deemed true here. So it will say you are a child. Okay, so that's the basics of an if statement. We're going to use these all the time for loads of different things. I'm going to show you how we can make the questions more complicated than just simple greater than and less than. We can ask multiple questions or arguments on the same if statement. But these are used nearly all the time when you are programming, regardless of language. But this is how you do it in Python. And just remember, this is really important to start pressing tab. So don't press space. Python helps you. So if I wanted another line of code here, when I pressed enter, you'll probably notice that it automatically made me indent. So when I press enter again, look, it's automatically indented for me. So it's trying to help you. But if I get the indent wrong, so if I pull that back, or even if I press space, when I run it, it's look, indentation error. These need to line up and they need to be tabs, not spaces. And then all my errors will go. So Python's very, very easy to read. It's a very nice language to read. People think it's easy because it looks like it's light on the syntax being things like semicolons and stuff. But Python is very strict in the way that you lay it out. You've got to lay it out in a nice, neat way because it actually uses the white space to understand what you mean. So this white space means that this block of code is only to be run if this argument is deemed to be true. Okay, so that's basic if statements. It's really important you understand those.